Welcome to Retired Life. Wish you were here. I'm Kim, here with my co host, Maria Barnett. And today we're talking about one of our favorite themes, reinvention. Not the kind that comes with a new job or a new house, but the kind that comes from the soul. Our guest, painter Brenda Sulmonetti, is living proof that a second act can be more colorful than the first. She picked up a paintbrush later in life, following a whisper of creativity, and turned it into a remarkable new career. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to do something beautiful, today's episode is especially for you.
Brenda, we're so excited that you're here. You're just such an inspiration for people that are like getting to a stage and now you have an open door and watching you do what you do is very exciting. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about how this all came about.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Um, it's kind of, I feel like it's this season in my life is going from, deadlines to creativity. So I'm just kind of loving what I do. And I worked for a tech company, which was not a good fit for me. And anyone who worked there will tell you it was not a good fit for me. But I worked for a tech company and I was not happy. And I was at the age basically where I could retire. And I just thought, can I pick up the paintbrush and can I make this work? Can I, even if I have to eat macaroni and cheese for the rest of my life, will this work? So I left that company and I just jumped in. And it's been about 10 years now.
Wow.
So, had you been painting before, or was that the first time?
I was always creative. I mean, all my life. My mother was an artist, but I did not have that innate talent. I took classes. I basically taught myself. I would watch YouTube videos. I would take any class I could find. I joined a painting group and got critiques there. So I really did not have the kind of gifted skill that a lot of people have.
And what type of inspires you? How did it all start that you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do first, the type of art that you do?
Well, I actually kind of it's been a process. I started with pastels, the chalk pastels, and I took several classes in that, and I just wasn't getting it. It wasn't coming to me. And so then somebody suggested I switch to oils. And so I switched to oil paint and again, kind of started over with classes and learning and, just taking baby steps. And so that's how I got to what I paint now. As far as what inspires me, it's really funny. It's anything that I feel tells a story. It can be a story that I see in the landscape. It can be a photo of a bear, and I'm wondering where is that bear going and what's happening. I also really want those stories to connect with other people. Yeah, I love the telling of a story, and I'm hoping that the viewer will stop and pause and say, "What's the story of that painting? How did that come about?" That's my goal.
So, did it start off as a hobby and then became a calling, or were you
Not
trying to
really.
go that direction the whole time?
Yeah, I kind of, I can be really stubborn when I have my mindset in that. And I knew that painting brought me joy. And so as soon as I left that job, I knew this was what I wanted to do. And I know that doesn't come for all people, that you don't just hit upon something and say, the lights go out or go on and you say, this is it, this is it. Um, but I guess what I'm saying, in creativity or in changing later in life, just try things. Just there is no such thing as a failure. Just try it, and you'll find what makes you happy.
What type of things do you think since you said that, try things and do something that makes you happy. What things do you feel you did that maybe you made a mistake with that you could say, I wouldn't recommend somebody doing this? Maybe go this. Is there a wrong or a right?
In what I do, there's not. And I don't really feel like I feel like we've been given a second chance when it's later in life and your kids are grown and you have extra time. I really feel like it's a second chance. And so even if you keep trying to hit on something, as long as you're curious, as long as you just keep going, you'll find that thing that makes you happy.
Right.
Mistake wise, that was your question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mistake wise, I would say that I put too much pressure on myself. I knew that I wanted to be an artist. I knew I wanted to be a professional artist. I didn't just want it to be a hobby. Um, and I think that I just was really hard on myself. So when I would originally, early on, when I would have a failure, I mean, I can't tell you how many terrible paintings I've done. It's too many to count. I used to joke and say I hid them under the bed, but then, the bed started levitating. So there's a lot of bad ones out there. But I think early on, when I had a bad one, I would kind of go, oh, this, I'd let it get in my head and I'd say, oh, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. And now I'm to the point where I still have a ton of bad ones. Don't get me wrong. But I stop and I go, what is wrong with it? What's wrong with that painting? Why isn't it working? What can I learn from this? And I also ask other people to critique it. And then you get a whole different feedback. But that was, I would say early on, the failure or the, stumbling block was don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
This is all you're supposed to enjoy this.
So when you first started, how did you picture? Well, what were your subjects?
My very first painting was of a cow, which is, so cliche,
I like
but
cows.
it was of a cow. And really kind of what put the idea in my head was a coworker. I showed it to her and she loved it and she bought it. So that was kind of what started the ball rolling. Early on, I painted a lot of animals. You can probably see the dog in the background. I painted a lot of animals. Now I do landscapes, I do florals. Uh, my style is kind of impressionist, but I like to put a little bit of kind of my own marks in it. So I wouldn't say it's abstract, but it's kind of in between the two. And I love to paint, oh gosh, boats as well. I paint boats all the time.
I like
Don't
both.
know why.
I like all
Yeah.
those subjects:
Yeah.
boats, cows, and dogs. I like dogs.
Yeah.
So would you take a picture of something in that situation and then paint from the picture, from the photograph?
Yes. That was another thing, Maria, that I tried that I would say, yeah, it wasn't so great. I tried plein air painting, which is, taking the easel out. And I just so admire those painters that can do that because there's the elements. I had my easel, tip over with the wet paint face down, in a like sand pile, in heavy wind. And, there's just all these elements you're dealing with. And I'm a little bit of a slower painter, so I wasn't good at when the light shifted. I wasn't as good at capturing that, and then it moved on, and I go, oh wait. So I will take a lot of photos, but I like to get outside and look at the scene. If it's a landscape, I'll definitely start outside. And, I might take photos, but also make notes because in photos, you lose your midtones. And so it's difficult unless you've written down, oh, this cloud looked like, this, as it was moving across. Unless you've given yourself some reference, you do lose a lot in a photo.
That's amazing that you say that because I would have never put together an artist that paints with taking notes of what you're seeing. That's really interesting.
Do you,
Yeah. Well, usually a lot of artists will do this and set up the scene. Like say you're painting a barn and it's got this tree off in the distance, and you kind of set it up so that it looks aesthetically pleasing, because that's the beauty of art. You can change it. You don't have to paint
Right.
exactly what was there. And so a lot of times I'll actually even do a quick little sketch. And then I might come back to the studio and go, oh, you know what? I've got that tree is shifted too far. It needs to, come over or whatever. So I'll do that too.
do you have mentors? Did you use mentors or did you just practice?
I did. I would say I paint with this group of amazingly talented women, and we have a space that we go. So if you're interested in this, check your community centers, check the local art centers. So we meet there once a week, and I'm telling you, they're all incredibly talented. And they originally, when I first started, they would just say, oh, you need to fix that, or you need to you need to change this up, or I don't, that's not reading right. And so that was a huge help. So no matter what you're trying or what your passion is, if you can find some people who have a like passion, that's really going to help you. And then I also had a mentor, and that was an amazing experience. Her name was Jody King, and she mentors a lot of artists. And even though her art style was not at all like mine, she really kind of sent me in the right direction. So I would recommend that as well.
So, how about the audience that you have that look? How do you find people? How do people find you? How do you, is it just through word of mouth? What do you find has helped you?
It started word of mouth, and then I started selling pieces on my website, and posting a lot on social media. So that helped, but I wouldn't say social media has kind of been this great sales tool for me. Um, i um, will do i only do one show a year, but I'm in a local gallery here in Atlanta, and it's a wonderful place, and I'm just lucky to be there. But you don't necessarily have to be in a gallery to do art. um, and it just started. It's funny, once it started moving, then um, then it just kind of snowballed. Like I had one piece in the Atlanta Holiday Show House, and it was a giant piece. They had to hang it with chains. And so then that kind of got my name out there. And then I worked with an online gallery, and they actually worked with, if you've ever heard of the catalogs, Serena and Lily. And so Serena and Lily has picked up a couple of my
Oh, that's
pieces. So
wonderful, Brenda.
like I said, it's just kind of, it kind of snowballed, but it took quite a few years. I had to stick with it, even though, that I was at that time being hard on myself.
But I think in anything that you try, and especially with us trying what we're doing, retired life, wish you were here. Um, it's sticking with it. It's sticking with it because not everything
Yes.
happens overnight. I mean,
And it's like, try this path, try this path,
Yes.
and
I I
eventually one
think
will
that
give a little.
it is, yeah, and yet, yes, you have to work at it. I mean, I have to say, I can't even tell you how many classes I've taken and hours I've put into it to get to where I am. But it's almost like, if you feel a spark with something, and especially when you're retired and you have time, if something kind of sparks in you, then honor that. And just, I would say the best advice I can give is just keep up the curiosity. Don't put yourself into a box. But if you feel like something's not really working, then just pivot a little bit and see if the next thing works.
Do you
So
do you think that you moved pretty quick for? I mean, there are some artists that spend their entire life and don't sell their pieces. So do you think yours was pretty quick? And do you have some idea of what made that happen for you like that?
I do think it was fairly quick. And I have to say, in all honesty, the what made it click was that I just kept working at it. I mean, I come up here in my studio probably 5 days a week. And I'm not saying that you have to do that when you first start out. Just like I said, take baby steps and start 10 minutes at a time. But I really look at this as kind of my second chance and my second career and my second life. So I really do put the time into it, and I realize everybody can't do that, but I think that is what sped up my process because I seemed to be really, really terrible at the start. I was really an awful painter, but I didn't give up. So I just kept coming up here and I just kept working at it, and it just clicked.
So do you have little routines that you do? Like you do it every day? Do you have a process to follow or?
I do and I don't. I will sometimes avoid coming up here if I'm just not feeling it. But one thing that I do is I come up and I kind of sit down and I, believe it or not, I light a candle. And I've maybe written some notes of what I want to work on that day. And sometimes I do it the night before or the day before. And I light that candle though, and that makes me stop procrastinating. I just go, all right, I'm just going to put something on that canvas. I will say there's nothing more intimidating than a giant white canvas. So, sometimes I have to push myself to just get out the paint. But it's funny, once I do that, once I just start, and sometimes it'll just be toning a canvas. I put a background color underneath all of my paintings because I like the light that comes through from it. And so if I just even say, Brenda, get up and just put some paint on that, put some transparent red oxide, just slap it on, then I'll just start. And that's kind of my ritual.
So approaching galleries, was that intimidating to start with, or did they approach you?
Um, it was totally intimidating. They did approach me, but I fell into it in that one of the first paintings that I sold was off of Instagram. And this woman said, I think you're in the Atlanta area. Um, I can either come pick it up from you or maybe you can ship it. It was a small piece. And we started talking, and it ended up that she lives 2 blocks from me, and we didn't know each other.
You can walk it over.
And yeah, and so I walked it over. And the next thing I knew, she was a collector of art. I mean, her house was just filled with beautiful art. And the next thing I knew, she talked to the gallery that is here in my town. She talked to the gallery and she said, "You need this woman in the gallery." And so I was like on Instagram one night, late at night, and the gallery owner reached out to me and said, "I'd like you to come in and talk to me." And I went,
That's
so
exciting.
that was how it started. So I did fall into that. I do know some other artists that have approached galleries via email and sent their portfolio. They don't always like it when you just walk in the door. Um, and I know that they sent out a lot of inquiries. So that's another thing. Just don't give up. Don't give up. And it happened for them. So, but it didn't happen with one email or 5 emails or 10. It was at email 50, that it worked. So, just kind of keep going.
Yeah, that's kind of like writing a book and sending it to multiple editors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that persistency, you just have to be persistent. It just doesn't happen. People
Yeah.
think that people that are successful, they're just successful.
yeah.
Oh, they
It's
didn't
just
do
luck.
it. It just happened to them, and they don't realize the amount of
Takes a
hours
lot
that
of
somebody has put
footwork.
in.
There's so, I mean, I've painted for so many hours. A lot of people will ask me, how long did it take you to paint that? And I'll say, well, 10 years. And, you know,
Yeah.
because if I would have painted that exact same thing 10 years ago, so I've studied and, done all that. But the great thing is, in this age, you can learn anything you want to on, asking Google, getting on YouTube, and I would say with mentors, it's just, you can learn whatever you want.
Yes. And you're right about the YouTube. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, I mean, there are people in their 80s that start writing and sell their books. They
Yeah,
have started their entire career at 80. So
which is fantastic.
what would you suggest for them to start? Like someone wanting to be an artist, starting from nothing, going to their community center or
I actually would say just find, even if it's a little spot in your house where, a little table or a little, even, if you have the kids' old bedroom, turn it into your art studio. And just so that if you have your supplies, and you don't need a ton of them to start, but just, some paper and a pencil, and then you can graduate to the paints. But if you have them readily available and they're out, you are much more likely to, as you walk by it, you'll go, oh, I can spend 10 minutes in there. So I would say take these little baby steps toward it. Don't be overwhelmed and intimidated. And maybe don't start with the giant canvases that I do now, start with something smaller and just have your supplies right out in front of you and spend 10 minutes and just keep taking step after step.
and you can paint it out.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
that's a mistake.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a
But
mistake. But
you
don't.
probably, like you were saying with your mistakes, you probably learn so much from your mistakes. Because if you look at it and you say, oh, I hate the color, or I hate the shape, or I hate the shadows, or whatever terminology, then you go in and you go back and you make the corrections on the next one. But
Yeah, that is very
I
true.
do follow you, and I love the way that you have the transitions when you start a painting and you do the fast track.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, those are actually really fun to do because I'll go back and watch them and I'll say, "Oh, that's where I made that mess up." But I think what you have to do is don't ask why, ask why not. And, switch your failure to feedback. I mean, get it, even if it's from yourself. If you look at something, like I'm looking at one right now that I don't like that painting at all. And it's been hanging there for a long time because I think I can fix it. And by a long time, I mean 6 months. But I look at it every day and I go, okay, what's wrong with it? It's terrible, but I look at it every day and try and figure out what's wrong with it. So I switched that mindset of looking at it like, ooh, that's really a failure to, all right, what do I need to do to fix it?
So, one smart decision that accelerated your growth. What's one thing you can think of that really pushed you through?
Um, I would say finding like-minded people because they turned out to be, and I didn't have expectations at first. I just looked for people who loved art and loved to paint. And once I got in that group that I was telling you about, that I meet with once a week, they are all so inspiring. And it just really pushed me to keep working and get better. So I would say that's the biggest thing is find somebody. They're also your biggest support group. They turn into your great friends. So I would say find somebody who also loves what you love.
And I also wanted to ask you what the first painting you sold, what was your subject?
It was that
The
cow.
cow,
Oh,
the
Yeah.
cow.
what about the
It was
lady who
about,
bought on social media?
oh, that actually was a cow as well.
Those cows are good. I'm telling you, cows.
Cows used to be really big, but they're not as much
Yeah.
anymore, but they used to be. Yeah. So the first one I sold was I think it was maybe a 6x6. And then, I kept getting bigger. And the next one, the one that she bought, was a 12x12.
One of the most remarkable things that I've seen you do is that wedding dress in the gallery. What was the inspiration behind that? That was just amazing, that piece.
That was all inspired by my mom.
Oh.
My mom used to sew a lot. And so I grew up remembering, those pattern pieces, that flimsy, tissue papery stuff. And somebody gave me some old vintage patterns. And I was just like, what can I do with these? And I tried a bunch of stuff first. This is another story of how the failure turned out. Because every time I would touch it with a kind of medium, it would, like paint or what, try and do something with it, it would disintegrate. It was really basically like tissue paper. So I just kept kind of messing with it. And I was like, okay, how can I make this into something? And I thought, well, it was a dress pattern. I made it into a dress. And so that was the one that I told you was in the show house, and it had to be because it was in a really thick, giant, heavy shadow box. And so it was very heavy, had to be very deep because the tissue paper, or I mean, the pattern paper was 3 dimensional. And so I just took it and I said, okay, that's going to be the skirt. And then I did gold leaf for the top of the dress. And it was on a black background. So it just popped. And it was one of those things that was an experimentation that turned out to be a wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So,
Did
but it
somebody
was
buy
all,
that? Somebody bought that and has it?
yes, somebody bought it at the show house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but it was all from my mom. I thought, she used to use these patterns all the time. And I remember it being a kid. So once somebody handed one to me, I said, well, I got to do something with this.
That's cool.
That is cool. You would have loved it. You would have loved it. It's very different.
So, our show is called Retired Life Wish You Were Here. Where is here for you?
Here is messy. um, and I don't care. Here is relaxed and is, you know, really finding joy. And like I'm told you before we started, we have 6 grandsons, all 5 and under. So it gets a little crazy. And we're expecting twin granddaughters in any day now. So we will have 8 grandchildren. And, here is just having the time and having, almost like a reinvention of yourself, because that's what brings you joy. So that's what you do.
I think you just
I
kind of
think
hit it, finding the time for what your passion is, the art, and finding your passion. I mean, finding the time for the grandkids, your family, moving forward with doing things with them. That's where I run into problems. I've spread myself out,
Yeah.
and I find my hobby and my career and my family gets jostled around a lot. And a little stress comes in.
Yeah, but I guess it's just since being retired, I feel like I don't, for the most part, have the pressure of deadlines anymore. Although if I'm getting ready for a show, it's a little crazy, and so am I. But I kind of feel like I traded in the deadlines for the creativity, and that has helped me a lot.
It's great.
Yeah. So for us, we picked up deadlines, our podcasts, and
Yeah.
our little,
And our little stories that we do, we try to do a Tuesday and a Thursday, 3 tips to give people 3 tips to take with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And
We would love for you to give us some tips on how you operate.
Sure.
That would be great. And we could put those up
yeah,
for
yeah. Our Tuesday,
Absolutely.
our Tuesday, Thursday tips.
our 3-tip
Three
Tuesday.
tips Tuesday,
Yeah.
3-tip Thursday.
Your tip Tuesday and your tip Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
So, what invitation would you extend to listeners about beginning again? What can you say to kind of round out our program?
I would say um, to ask why not do this? Um, take the step, and it's not going to hurt anything. Even if it doesn't work, it's not a failure. It's an effort. You tried. And so I would say that somebody encountering a brand new, a brand new venture in their retirement, um, don't ask why, or don't ask should I, ask why not. So that would be it.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not? What do you have?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's kind of what we did. We
thing
were
is, what do
sitting
you have-
around talking, and it's like, okay, why not?
what do you have to lose? Like, really, what do you have to lose? You're at a stage in your life where you do have the time, but do
Mhm.
something that you enjoy and that gives you
Yeah.
pleasure instead of just sitting around. I mean, if you're retired, just sitting around doing nothing, it's kind of a waste. We've got so
Yeah.
much time in front of us when you retire.
Yeah. And I think that retirement, some people look at retirement as an end phase of their life cycle. And I think more it helps to look at it as this is just a new start. Um, I kind of like to say I just traded bosses. So I don't have
That's great.
that old boss at the company I had anymore. I have me, which, might be good, might be not.
You might be
But
harder on yourself.
yes, but yeah, I look at it more as in, okay, this is the next chapter. This isn't, oh, I'm done because I'm not in an office working anymore. This is my new start, and I get to do whatever I want.
I love that. It's a new start. It's your new start.
Well, Brenda, thank you for sharing your second act with us. Your story shows us that dreams don't retire. They're there for you to take, reach up and grab, come up with new ones. And they simply want us to give them the time and the space. And that's big, especially for an artist, giving them the time and the space. And like you said, have that space right there so you can get to it.
Well, thank you so much for
No,
having
it's been
me. I
great.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much. It's been terrific, and I really appreciate it. So, yeah.
And send us all of your information, and we will have it on our show notes so they can
Okay.
go to your website and see your work, which I have looked at, and it is really pretty.
Thank you.
And to
Yeah.
all of you listening, your masterpiece may be waiting just on the other side of trying something new. Until next time, we wish you were here. And remember to subscribe and follow. Thank you.